Okay, now we're starting the post-production phase of things. And one of the first things you have to do to prepare for your post-production and get that going in a solid way is choosing a solid editor, right? And there's a few ways to determine if someone's a solid editor. A lot of people that I've worked with as an editor have a mistaken idea of what an editor will do for you. And I understand it. Everybody wants the one-stop shop, and there are companies that offer it. But just know that what you're paying for isn't an editor. You're paying for a turnkey solution, and that's fine. But like anything else, don't put your eggs all in one basket because you end up having to depend on somebody who might run off. There's so many stories that I've heard of people who've come to me because their editor ran off or didn't deliver on time, or didn't, when they left, didn't give them any access to any things they were doing. Long story short, you want to choose an editor specifically to be your editor. And what an editor is not someone who's going to help you with all the pre-production, who's going to explain all the things I have in this course. They're not there to hold your hand through anything. They're there to take the file you're giving them, whether you're using something like Dropbox, WeTransfer, Google Drive. Take that raw file and compress it, equalize it, remove coughs, lip smacks, right? A lot of for people who aren't necessarily as skilled at speaking publicly, which podcast production and being a podcast guest affords you and offers you an opportunity to say you've spoken publicly. It's a public appearance. And there are people who use crutch words like and you know, or my favorite crutch phrase, that's a good question. Those are all things that you should be on the lookout for yourself when you're speaking, but it's also something you should be on the lookout for as the host, so you can jot down a note. About roughly 10 minutes in, I remember there was a cough or whatever. If you took my advice from an earlier video and found yourself an assistant producer, then they take care of that. And at the same time, they also will give those notes, which are just time codes. It's just time codes. 10 minutes and 52 seconds this, right? You can do that. And the reason why I told you to get the assistant producer is because now your assistant producer, during post-production, hands off notes to your editor that you've controlled the quality for, meaning the snippet they pull out, the promotional snippet, the one they either put the 15 seconds at the beginning or whatever you use for social media. Your assistant producer, or yourself if you decided not to do it because you don't have the budget, can now give an editor a clear journey, a clear idea of their to-dos, because most editors will only do what you told them to do. And if you leave it up to their judgment, you better hope that editor understands and thinks like an entrepreneur, or whatever your industry may be, as a musician or an actor or a historian, whatever the case is. You have to understand that you're relying on someone else's judgment if you didn't do it yourself, because an editor will only equalize, they'll remove noise, they'll do all the things that editors know how to do. But then to rely on the abstract case that they're going to all have the same judgment as you for what they believe is a promotional insight, sure, they can have the outsider's perspective. But is that the golden moment? I don't think it is. So it's important that you consider those are the materials you're preparing for your editor to use. And you have to choose someone who's clear about that. If someone offers you the moon and wants to do more for you and this and that, fine, if it makes sense for your budget, but I personally would steer clear of that and hire specifically for that. And timestamps are going to be everything for you. Personally, when I work with Cal Fussman, one of the greats in podcasting from our modern age, he controls the quality of his show by giving me the timestamps he needs from me to pull out to get his show put together. So if the greats do it, if the pros do it, and you want to be a pro, you should do that too.